Developing apps is hard enough. Doing repetitive tasks, writing all the code manually and wasting time by opening the browser whenever you want to add a dependency to the PubSpec YAML file to copy a version of a Dart package isn't productive at all. You want to be in the programming flow as long as possible and not to be disturbed by mundane tasks. Hello, welcome to ResearchCoder. The only thing which you cannot abolish are the frequent trips to Stack Overflow and filtering through the works on my machine responses over there. Oh well, I guess that's just the nature of being a developer. As for the other things though, in this tutorial we are going to take a look at how to have higher productivity as a Flutter developer by using certain extensions for VS Code. And be sure to check out the written tutorial from the link in the description, where you can find everything what's going on in this video and also links to all of the extensions and themes and fonts and all of that good stuff. Let's talk about the obvious things first, and those are Flutter and the Dart extension. So just go into the extension tab in VS Code and search for Flutter and Dart. And I assume that you already have these two extensions installed, but still, I receive quite a few comments on my tutorials asking me how do I wrap a widget with another one so easily and so on. So it's clear that they just do not know either how to use their extensions or they do not have the Flutter extension installed. So just make sure you have Dart extension and Flutter extension installed. And also there is one setting which you should definitely enable, because currently it's not enabled by default. That's because this setting is currently only experimental, and that is these nice guides on the side, these white lines. They make parent-child relationships in Flutter visible at first glance, which is definitely a good thing, because with Flutter there is just so much going on in the code that it can become quite messy even if you structure your code properly, and these Flutter UI guides help a lot. To enable them, go to the settings by hitting Control and comma, or Command and comma I believe on the Mac, and just search for guides. And you want to make sure that you enable preview Flutter UI guides and maybe even preview Flutter UI guides custom tracking, although only the first setting is required. And once you restart VS Code, you will be able to see these awesome UI guides. Another extension which you definitely must have if you are a Flutter developer, or really any kind of developer, is Tapout. Tapout allows you to really tab out of brackets and parentheses. It will save you a lot of time because reaching for the arrow keys is a pain. What do I mean by that? Well, whenever you are inside some kind of a parentheses or before a parentheses and you want to go to the other side, so to say, you have to hit an arrow key. But with tab out, you can also hit the tab key. This also applies to strings. So let's just say we have some string here, and now I can hit just tab key and again tab key, and I have tabbed out of the quotation mark and also out of the parentheses, which is definitely nice. It also works with square brackets, so you can tab out even out of lists and also out of maps. So you are going to love this extension. The next extension on the list is Spec Assist. And Spec Assist is an awesome extension for adding dependencies to Dart projects or to Flutter projects, because with it you do not have to leave the comfort of VS Code in order to add some kind of a dependency from pub.dev site, because usually what you do is you go to PubSpec YAML for your project and you open up pub.dev and you search for a package, let's say Flutter block. Now I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. Here I am in pub.dev and I search for Flutter block. I've already searched for it before and I select it. And I will go to installing and now copy the dependency string and then go over back to VS Code and paste this dependency under the list of dependencies. This is quite a long process which takes you out of VS Code. You need to search on another website, and it's just overall not really time friendly if you want to save time. Obviously, it's just like 5 seconds of time that you can save, but still 5 seconds are 5 seconds. And also you have to open a new tab in the browser and so on. So really it's just not the best way to do things. However, if you have the Spec Assist extension installed, you can just go to PubSpec YAML and hit Ctrl-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P to open up the command palette of VS Code. And now you can just hit PubSpec Assist, add dependency. You can fuzzily search for a package name. So we can just say block, right? And we can choose from multiple packages which have the name which we have searched for inside of them. So we want to select Flutter block. And now Flutter block was added to the dependencies, and we did not need to leave the comfort of the VS Code. Now we can just save the pubspec.yaml file, and all of the dependencies will be gotten for us using the Flutter extension. Or maybe it's actually the Dart extension that does the fetching of the packages, but either way, we have all of the dependencies here without leaving VS Code using PubSpec Assist. The next extension on the list is maybe an obvious one for some of you, but still I have to include it in this list because without it, Flutter development is just much harder. That extension is Awesome Flutter Snippets, because Awesome Flutter Snippets adds a lot of snippets, for example, stateless widget and stateful widget. And yes, some of these snippets like this stateless widget and stateful widget are already available from the regular Flutter extension, but Awesome Flutter Snippets has much more to offer. For example, you can create a stream builder, animated builder. Also, you can have a future builder and even a list builder, so list view builder right here, in just a matter of few keystrokes. So let's test it out. Inside the column, for example, we are going to add another child, which will be stream builder. Here we go. We can add stream, initial data, and its child, and we're good to go. We can also add list builder or list view B, which is the shortcut for adding a list view builder, or also a future builder. Future BLDR, and we have a future builder over here. Really in a matter of keystrokes, a few keystrokes, we can add really complex widget into our apps without needing to remember their precise syntax, without needing to write redundant boilerplate code ourselves. Let's now delete what we have added here because we do not need these 3 widgets. The next extension, which you should definitely have if you are any kind of a developer, is advanced new file. How do you usually create new files? Well, you go into the Explorer and you either right click and select new file, or you can also click here to create a new file. And also you have to create new folders. And then inside that folder, you create new file. So new file.dart, for example. But this process can be simplified. You are still going to have to write what you want to create yourself, but you will not have to use the mouse. And using the mouse is somewhat limiting because you have your hands on the keyboard and you just have to pick up your right hand, place it on the mouse, move the mouse cursor, and open up your folders. If you have multiple folders, maybe you have collapsed them before and you have to open them and then you can click on them. So it's really not all that great to create folders and files with a mouse. However, if you have the advanced new file extension, you can just hit Ctrl-Alt-N or Command-Alt-N on Mac. And now you can choose a path to which the file will be relative to. So for example, lib. Then you can enter a file name or a relative path to a file. So you can also basically create new folders. So let's create a folder called new folder. And then inside of it will be a file called new file again. So new file.dart, and hit enter. And a new folder with a new file will be created for you. You are automatically placed into the new file where you can enter some code using, for example, the awesome Flutter snippets to create a material app here. And you're good to go. You did not have to place your hand on the mouse at all. Everything was done through the keyboard. The next one on the list is the bracket pair colorizer, because Dart and Flutter use brackets, and I mean a lot of brackets. Just look at this. Everywhere is a bracket. And with bracket pair colorizer, you can make your code more read-friendly by being immediately able to recognize which bracket or which parentheses matches with which one. In addition to making the brackets colorful, it also kind of highlights the currently selected, so to say, scope of brackets, as you can see here. Hopefully on YouTube it's visible because it's quite a thin line. But for example, this scaffold bracket is yellow, and also the scope is highlighted with a yellow color in between the two brackets which belong to the scaffold. Also, the same is true for the app bar. Now the scope will be highlighted with a purple color, and the same goes for every single bracket that there is. It works for curly braces, parentheses, and also the square brackets. So be sure to add bracket pair colorizer version 2 over to your VS Code. You want to use version 2 because, as it writes in the FAQ of this extension, version 2 uses the same bracket parsing engine as VS Code, which increases speed and accuracy. The next extension on the list is block. If you are not already using the block pattern or the block library in your projects, you definitely should be, because otherwise you are seriously missing out. Block, which stands for Business Logic Component, is a reactive state management pattern for Flutter. There is also an amazing library which makes managing state with block streamlined and pleasant. Still, even with this library, there is quite a bit of boilerplate code to write. This block extension, which by the way comes from the author of the library himself, Felix Angelov, will spare you from writing all of that boilerplate. And also, if you want to learn more about block and how to do state management the easy way, you can do so from the card in the corner. One thing that this block extension is capable of doing is to create a bunch of files at once, because every block needs the block class itself, then it needs the states which the block outputs, and events which are an input for the block. With the block extension, creating these files is like a breeze. You just right click, select block, new block from the context menu, specify the name of the block, for example, my block, hit enter. You can even use equatable package to simplify or override equality comparisons, so we can say yes. And now we have successfully generated the block files, and as we can see, we have my block event, and my block state. And by the way, we have errors here because we have not added equatable to the project, but we can do so fairly quickly now that we know that we can use the Spec Assist. So let's just hit Spec Assist. Let's search for equatable and select equatable. We didn't even have to select it because we have specified the full name correctly, and there is only one package which is called equatable, so it added it automatically because we did not have any option to choose from. And now once this package is in here, we aren't going to have any errors inside the event class and the state class. The last extension on the list is ToDo Tree. You know, to-do comments are a way to remind yourself to implement some functionality later. You have to remember to actually do it later though, because otherwise these comments really lose their purpose. What ToDo Tree does is that it takes all of the to-do comments and fix me comments and shows them in a nice clean way so that you can begin working on what needs to be done. For example, you have a to-do command here. So to do something. And you also have fix me. So fix this. And by the way, this highlighting of to-do commands doesn't come from the ToDo Tree extension. It rather comes from a different extension called Better Comments. So this is something like a bonus extension for you. Better Comments just allows you to highlight certain comments in a different color. So even this is a nice extension, but it's not a must-have extension. So that's why I have not really included it in the list, but you definitely want to have ToDo Tree. So just search for it. And the first one that comes up is the one that you want to use, ToDo Tree. So now that we have added these two comments in here, we can select the to-dos from the left side, from the left sidebar. And here we have all of the to-dos inside main.dart. So we want to do something, and also we have fix me, fix this. So really, ToDo Tree keeps your to-dos and fix me's organized. Lastly, as a complete bonus, I want to mention the theme and font which I use. That's because I am bombarded with comments and even emails asking me about the visual side of my setup. So let's just answer these questions once and for all. My go-to theme is Material Theme because it looks really amazing. So just search for Material Theme over here. And I am using Material Darker to be more precise. So to install this theme, you just want to hit the command palette. So Ctrl-Shift-P and say theme, so preferences color theme, and select Material Theme Darker. This is my theme which I'm using. There is some additional setup regarding this theme if you do not want to lose your eyesight whenever you start debugging. That's because as soon as you start debugging, the default implementation of Material Theme will change the status bar, the bottom one, to look like this. To me, that's quite distracting. So if you want to get rid of this purple color or this magenta kind of color, which is not all that great in my opinion, you want to go to Settings, actually open up the Settings JSON file by clicking on the bracket icon in the upper right corner. And now you want to add this bit of code. And of course, all of these settings and all of the links also are available from the written tutorial, to which you can get by clicking on the link in the video description. This setting will simply change the status bar debugging color to be a nice dark gray color and not that purple one, which is enabled by default. When it comes to the icon theme, I am using, again, Material Theme, but now Material Icon Theme. And even here I have some additional setup done. So again, back in Settings JSON, you can create folder associations for the Material Icon theme. And what I've done here is that I have global state. So whenever a folder is called global state, I want to assign a global looking icon to it. What does that mean? Well, let's see. Let me create a folder global state. And it's looking like this with that earth icon, and it's purple. By default, only the folder called global is looking like this, but with the help of this folder association, even global state has this kind of an icon. And also I have folder association for UI folders and also for the block folder. And finally, let's talk about the font which I use. This font is called Fira Code, and it looks, in my opinion, really nice. Again, the link is available in the written tutorial. But I've gotta be frank with you, because there is another font which I'm currently only experimenting with, which is really promising, because usually these kinds of fonts are really expensive for being just fonts. They cost upwards of €50 or $50. So I really just do not want to spend this kind of money on just a font. But there is a really promising font called Victor Mano. So if I change this font family from Fira Code to Victor Mano and save it, if I now go back to main.dart, it will look something like this. And I would also probably bump up the weight of the font. So let's search for font weight to be 900 maybe. So it will look much better now. And you can see why the Flutter UI guidelines are still only in preview, because they cut through the text. So they have to fix their things in the Flutter extension, but still Flutter guides are awesome. But anyway, this is the font. As you can see, whenever something is in italic, it's written with this kind of a handwritten script, which is definitely good looking. Every return statement is also in italic, and a bunch of other keywords are also in italic, and all of the comments are italic, and they look kind of cool. I'm not yet certain whether or not I will use this font for real, but this is just a good option and it's completely free. It's called Victor Mano, and the link is available from the link in the video description from the recent tutorial. One thing which you absolutely must do, whether you use Victor Mano or Fira Code, is to enable font ligatures right here. Font ligatures will make sure that whenever you have, for example, a greater or equal sign, so if I add a random if statement here, 5 is greater or equal than 6, we have a nice font ligature. Also, and has a font ligature, so does equals equals, so equality check, so 6 equals 6 or 7, it doesn't matter. And also not equal, so or 5 not equal 4, it has a font ligature. So definitely enable font ligatures to have the best experience using Fira Code or Victor Mano, which are fonts which support ligatures. Alright, so this was quite a list, and all of these extensions will surely boost your developer productivity in Flutter, but also in other frameworks. Also, subscribe to this channel and also hit the bell button to join the notification squad and not miss any of my new videos, because here on ResoCoder I am determined to provide you with the best app development tutorials and resources out there, like this one on extensions for VS Code, but also overall tutorials on Flutter and on making clean, nicely designed and functional and testable apps. If this video helped you to make your VS Code experience better, definitely give it a like and also share it with other developers who will definitely benefit from it too. If you know of any other extensions which you think should have definitely been mentioned here, let us all know and leave a comment. Follow me on Instagram, because over there I post the most raw, most up-to-date stuff from what's going on behind the scenes, and see you in the next video.